Hello and welcome to the ShaunPulse.net podcast. This is episode number 74. My name is Adam. Today we're joined by Kevin. How are you, Kevin?
I'm doing all right.
Today we have a wonderful show lined up, starting with an interview with Brea Grant and Vera Miao on their new film, Best Friends Forever, which is currently playing on video on demand. Then we'll be speaking with Shaun Kadlec and Deb Tullman on their film, Born This Way, which is premiering this week at Outfest in LA. Of course, we'll also be talking about some of what we've been watching, and finally we'll be going over this week's movie predictions and DVD and Blu-ray releases. First up, you may know our first guest from shows such as Dexter, Heroes, and NCIS, among many others, but now Brea Grant and Vera Miao wrote and directed their own feature titled Best Friends Forever, which is currently playing on demand. Let's take a listen. Thank you so much for being here, guys. I was wondering if you could just start by telling us a little bit about the film.
Yeah, Best Friends Forever is an apocalyptic road trip movie that takes place on a road trip from Los Angeles to Austin during the hush period. Is that what we're calling it, Vera?
Yeah.
Yeah, the time during a nuclear apocalypse, but the time basically right when it starts, not super post-apocalyptic, very on the breach of an apocalypse.
And Brea, this is your directorial debut. What made you decide to break into writing and directing, coming from acting?
Well, Vera and I wrote it together, and I think we both. I mean, we were taking acting classes together, and the problem with being an actor is that you spend a lot of your time sort of, waiting for the phone to ring. I mean, there's no better way to put it. Like, literally, I wait for my agent to call me and say, hey, you have an audition, or there's a project that you might be able to be involved with if you're really super lucky. So it's nice to be able to create your own content. I think without Vera, I don't think I actually would have gone through with making it. But with the both of us, I think we sort of pressured each other and encouraged each other enough to go out there and actually do it, not just to write the script.
Right. And it seems like you guys have a lot of good on-screen chemistry. I take it that you guys are friends in real life?
Yeah. I said that perfectly casually. That's a joke. Yes, we're totally friends in real life. Yeah.
Yeah, we met in an acting class a few years back, and we had a lot of things in common. The two major things being that we both like action movies where things explode and crazy sci-fi movies, but we also both have a background in sort of like women's studies, feminism world, which is two things you don't see combined terribly often. So It's nice to meet another person with those things in common.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the big things about this film is that it's shot on 16 millimeter. Is that correct?
Yeah, Super 16. Mm-hmm.
Super 16. So what made you guys decide to go with that route?
Well, at one point, Vera literally said, she's like, wouldn't it be cool if we shot on film? We're like, whatever, we can't afford that.
And then I wouldn't drop it. I think, I think that when we went through the process of thinking about the actual production, a lot of folks told us, film is really a stupid choice for a low-budget independent. And so I think I was sort of a little bit of a pit bull about it, not from any kind of informed position about the relative merits of digital versus celluloid. It was more around that I love film. I think film is breathtakingly beautiful, and probably there's a kind of a romance involved in it for me personally. And actually, I felt like Brea and we had another producer involved, Stacy, could relate with me on that end. But then I think, and Brea could talk about this a little bit more. I think there was, in the end, I feel like we were somewhat vindicated in our choice, just because, a road trip film through the Southwest, a lot of it in super bright, sunny daylight in a car, is beautifully represented on film. And I think that digital would have, you can also get beautiful results, but it requires a little bit more working with the equipment in a way that I think I don't know, I think that the imagery and the color is incredible, and the grain is so incredible that for me, like outside of the like the sort of the producing aspects of it, like the budget, the pros and cons, the sort of technical sides of it. I really love visually what Brea and our cinematographer ended up doing with it.
Yeah, and I mean, the whole film has like a throwback feel to it, and so shooting on 16 just made it, push it further in that direction. I think it was just part of the aesthetic of the movie.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was going to say. Like, the act of shooting it on Super 16 really lends itself to the visual style of the movie. I mean, when you deal with the movie that has that kind of subject matter, it seems like shooting on film just kind of goes hand in hand with the look and what you're kind of going for.
Absolutely, and
that was a great choice for you guys to decide to do it that way, I think.
Yeah, and and just as far as like the expansive landscapes that are out there, I just don't feel like could have been captured well visually. And me being so inexperienced, I wanted something that I felt like it would be harder for me to screw up, And I mean, it's just that film captures things so much better, and I could look at it and know it would just look more beautiful. And it was funny, while we were shooting, our production designer pointed out to me one day, she was like, this is actually saving money in a way, because we're working on a very tight schedule on a shoestring budget, and it meant that I think on my highest day I shot 1,800 feet. On my average days, I think I was allowed to shoot about 1,300 feet, which is like nothing. I mean, if you know anything about film, that's like nothing. Mm-hmm. So it would save us time, because we couldn't do 30 takes of the scene just to get the improvisation right, or to get the to get everything we wanted. I had to be very limited and specific about what I wanted from each scene. And so we knew going in, I'm like, we had 6 setups for the scene, that's it. We had 2 setups for the scene, that's it. And that was it. And Vera knew, like, you get 2 takes, if that. Most of them you got 1 take, And and that limit actually was a good thing, because it helped us to limit our time when we were like traveling to locations. We were shooting in the middle of nowhere. We had a limited amount of daylight because we were shooting in Texas, and once the sun went down behind the mountains, it was like gone. So it helped us overall actually to keep like just a limit on the shoot.
And I think also it forced us, along what Brea is saying, and just from my experience, acting in it, it just forced us to make choices. Mm-hmm. And just commit to them. And I think in digital, there's some comfort and there's some value, right, to being able to almost warm up while you're shooting, sort of get it right while you're doing. I mean, there's lots of value to that from a lot of different ways. But I actually think that, and our film, maybe at least based on some of the stuff that I've read, feels a little bit more like, more classic or traditional film shoots pre-digital era, right? Which is where the director really has to know what she wants, and then the actors really have to be prepared to make their choices and to commit to them on the first take. And also that we don't get to see the daily, like we don't get to see playback. Mm-hmm. And we were in the middle of literally nowhere. So dailies were not possible either. In any kind of like a rapid turnaround. Yeah. So it was for a lot of reasons, making an independent film is a leap of faith, right? But I think that choosing to shoot it on film made it that much more.
How long did it take you guys to shoot?
We shot 17 days for our original shoot, and then we went back and had 5 reshoot days.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the film's plot a little bit, and I don't want to give any kind of spoilers away, anything like that. And like you mentioned earlier, it is kind of set along the backdrop of the apocalypse or the end of the world, but really it's more of a coming-of-age story, sort of, and a road trip movie kind of mixed in there. What made you decide to have it be like an end-of-the-world type backdrop with this?
Well, as Brea mentioned, like we really hit it off when we first met, because just straight up, we're huge nerds, and we, the kinds of stories that we actually prefer to consume, on our own all the time are sci-fi, horror, fantasy. We love apocalypse stories, and we actually, when we started this process, we were writing a different film. We were writing a much more straight up slasher horror film. With the two of us, because we love horror, and we kind of thought, if we're going to we're going to create our own material, we can bring a really unique, spin to classic horror films, right? And we started writing that script, and we went pretty far into it, and we kind of let it go because it didn't feel right for a variety of reasons, not least of which is we thought, hey, it might be kind of brutal to subject ourselves to million-hour days where we're tortured and slashed and covered in sticky syrup blood. And we kind of stopped for a second and took a little bit of time to regroup. So we always knew that, one of the things I loved about Brea is that she understood, why I'm so obsessed with Joss Whedon, and why I think that genre is, one of the most powerful ways to tell real human stories. Because of the extremity of the circumstances, right? It kind of gives us freedom to really explore all of our fears and all of our big emotions. And so we always knew that we were going to do a story that had genre elements, and that was a genre story. But she was actually driving on a road trip, I think from LA actually, through that territory, and gave me a call and was just struck by how bleak and barren the landscape was. And I was like, this is maybe the landscape for us to do the story, and what if it's an end of the world tale? The end of the world tale, I think, was really our starting point, and the story that emerged about this friendship between these two women kind of evolved out of that.
And the interesting thing about the film is that it's not easily, you can't easily categorize this film. Like there's elements of a lot of things in it, right? Like there's a good bit of comedy, there's this road trip story, but it also does go to some fairly dark places as well.
Yeah, to be honest, I was a little bummed when I looked on iTunes and it was like just categorized as independent, because I thought, because I myself think of it as sort of a drama / sci-fi story. I mean, and obviously the sci-fi is a little bit on the backdrop, but I do think it plays a role in informing the characters and the decisions they make. I mean, that's like the main thing that pushes them into this situation is this nuclear explosion. So, I mean, I think movies are going that way. I mean, I think it's rare to go see a movie, that doesn't have a lot of elements, and I think more and more we're starting to mix up the genres because we have people like us who are fans of, like, all these different genres. Like, I love a road trip movie. I love a buddy movie. I love movies about female friendship, and there's not a whole lot of them. And then to add in these elements of other movies that I love, So, I mean, I think movies are getting more and more. I mean, obviously you have these giant movies that are going to just be about Lone Ranger or whatever. But I think as far as the indie world goes, I think people are taking more chances, and we're allowed to do that because we don't spend the budgets that are Lone Ranger. So if we fail miserably, it doesn't matter as much.
And I also think that because it was something that Brea and I wrote, and then sort of shaped and created and sort of made into being, it's more of I think it's a pretty good reflection of sort of who we are, and as Brea said, like the things that we love, and also real life. Like in real life, we don't live our lives tonally the same. And I think that that's one of the kind of like the fabrications of film, right? Like you have to fit a genre, or you have to fit a category, you have to fit a type. And so you have to adhere a little bit to some conventions or some rules about like what, are you hitting all of your marks, and to ensure that you're firmly in comedy, or that to ensure you're firmly in drama, right? And, and in reality, that's actually not how we experience life or the world, or like a moment-to-moment reality. And and especially if you go into really, really dark stuff, you have to have moments of humor, because that's actually real life, unless this is like a Lars von Trier sort of situation, and it wasn't. It wasn't, and and by the same notion, you can't be afraid if you're going to create something that's entertaining, and has sort of funny sort of more comedic moments or timing. You can't be afraid to go dark, in some sort of like allegiance to the notion of a consistent tone, right? It's just not a reflection of how we live and how we think. I mean, for God's sakes, a day of shooting, you know, there are times when I wanted to like kill myself, and then an hour later I'm laughing hysterically. And so, you know, I mean, I think that, you know, in that respect, it's, you know, it's both a reflection of the fact that we love, you know, a million different kinds of genres. Like I said, we're nerds. I'm a total nerd. I have a 13-year-old boy alive and well inside of me, making movie choices. But I'm also like, some of my favorite films are tiny, independent, emotional things like Weekend, which is, you know, a British gay romance story, you know. And so like, it's, you know, so I think that we, you know, and Brea too. Brea is the first to, like, you know, she'll go see some movies that are slower than I can even handle. And we brought all of that. You know, we didn't, you know, we tried our best to really learn from people, much, you know, sort of more experienced people who've done this before. But then I also think to a certain degree we allowed ourselves, you know, to sort of follow whatever evolved.
There's kind of a growing trend in films taking on this end of the world scenario. And I was wondering if you guys had any insight as to what's making this so popular.
I have a theory about this, actually, because, I mean, we started making this movie a couple years ago, and I noticed at the time even there were a lot of movies coming out that were a little, you know, that had that theme. And this is a total shot in the dark, but I was thinking about it the other day, that I think because the world feels smaller now, like, you know, because we're so interconnected essentially with the internet, but because travel is easier, and because, you know, you can keep in touch with someone who lives in China or wherever, and through Facebook, you know everything that's happening. I think that the idea of a worldwide disaster doesn't seem quite as far away. And I also think there was a time where, you know, when my parents were my age, that if there was a disaster in, you know, somewhere far away, that it didn't affect them as much. But, you know, now, like, I mean, I've been listening to the radio all day because I want to know how everything in Egypt is going to affect us as well as affect them. But it's like everything seems so much more interconnected that I think the fear of, like, a big global issue, I mean, whether it be an apocalypse, a war, or a nuclear bomb, because just a nuclear bomb, which is a big deal. You know, I think it seems more likely to affect all of us in our own selfish little worlds. You know, I mean, it's more likely to come in and invade us. I think that's part of the reason.
Yeah, and I think that's, you know, like, and then I would say that a sort of like another sort of leg of that similar theory is, you know, I think that you see it with the, you know, sort of the rise and maybe the waning right now of the popularity of zombie stories, but general apocalypse and end of the world is a reflection of our anxiety, because we do have all of this information, and a lot of the information is extremely grim, right? Like, you know, where we can, you know, I mean, it's, for me, sometimes I watch the news and I despair, truly, like, I'm not making shit up. And there's a way in which I think that right now, I think that there's overall an anxiety about what's coming next. And particularly, and this is just my opinion, particularly for the U.S., which has really, you know, been existing, you know, in this sort of sense and identity of being the world's #1 superpower, as well, you know, economically, but also morally, culturally. I think actually there is a generalized anxiety specific to the U.S. that says we're losing that place. There are other countries that are coming up fast, or in some places have exceeded us. And what does that mean for what's coming next? Is it the end of everything that we know? And is that end mean darker days for this country, which has really, like, you know, honestly enjoyed the sun for a really long time? You know, and, you know, so for me, it's a little bit of like fall of the Roman Empire, not to be overly dramatic, but there is that anxiety underneath, you know. So, you know, and it's a combination. It's like we can feel that all of the things that are happening in the world around us, politically in other countries, environmentally, right, are like next door. We can read about it in real time as it's happening. And so it brings it all really close. And then at the same time, in this country, I think people don't know what's going to be next for the U.S., which has experienced a high level of confidence, honestly, and kind of untouchability for so long, which I think is completely at risk.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think when you look back at kind of the history and trends of film and cinema in general, it always reflects how the general populace feels, right? So, like, you know, during the 80s, we had a lot of movies that were based on the kind of decadence of the 80s. And I think now people have a pretty grim outlook. And I think that that's definitely one of the reasons why we're seeing a lot of films come out like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have one final question before we do some plugging. If the apocalypse does occur, how would you guys react? Would you react similarly to your characters?
I think I would be. I personally would be a little bit more vigilant. I mean, like I have like a bug out bag, and now I have. I just put together like a whole new like earthquake preparedness kit that's like not only just a backpack to grab. I have like a big bucket thing that has like weapons and water for like 20-something days and like all this kind of stuff in it. So I'm a lot more prepared. I'm a little bit more obsessed with apocalyptic scenarios, real life apocalyptic scenarios than my character Harriet ever would be, I think.
Okay. Vera, what do you think?
I wish I could say the same. I'm pretty lame on disaster preparation. But there's like two things. One part of my character I think I would absolutely be the opposite of, which is the part where Reba, I think almost to a willful degree, chooses not to see the signs around her. And interpret them, you know, that is not me. I would spend my entire time trying to figure out exactly what was happening, and you know, sort of think, information is power, right? That would be the standpoint. So then that way I'd be the opposite. But I will say one thing that I like about the character, which I think would be what I would do in the face of an apocalypse, is that I think she turns to who's most important to her first. Like that's what's most critical. And that's what I would do. I would spend my entire time tracking down all of my loved ones, making sure they're okay, seeing where they are, and then trying to find ways to meet up and come together where it makes sense. Like that would be my first impulse. And so probably, you know, I might get killed because I'm so busy trying to collect all my peeps that I leave myself vulnerable, but at least I have the information and I know that they're okay. So, yeah.
So the film is, again, Best Friends Forever. It's currently playing on iTunes, right? And it comes out July 5th on other VOD platforms. Is that correct?
Yeah. Everywhere else and cable as well.
And cable as well. Okay, well, thank you so much, guys, for spending some time with us.
Yeah,
Great.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Vera and Brea. Again, the film is Best Friends Forever. You can find it on any of your preferred video-on-demand services. Next up, Shaun Kadlec and Deb Tullman have a new documentary premiering at Outfest in LA June 14th titled Born This Way, which explores the underground LGBT community in Cameroon, where more people are imprisoned for being gay than anywhere else in the world. Thanks so much for speaking with us, guys. Why don't we start by just telling us a little bit about Born This Way?
Shall I just assume that, just kind of start from the beginning, yeah? Assume that nobody knows anything about it.
Yeah, just assume that nobody knows anything at all.
Well, Born This Way is a documentary that explores what it's like to be gay and lesbian in modern Africa, and the country that we chose to focus on through some connections through Human Rights Watch with Cameroon. And we follow, in a pretty intimate way, a couple of subjects, a man and a woman, both in their late 20s, kind of through their everyday lives as they grapple with challenges around the legal issue. It's illegal to be gay there, 5 years in prison, more arrests there for homosexuality than anywhere in the world. We follow them through their struggle with the law, with religion, with their families, and then also kind of explore and try to get under the surface a little bit of what what's changing in the culture and what may be possible for the future as they move toward equality in their own way, at their own pace, in their own time. We've really tried to let Cameroon and the subjects in the film speak for this issue and explore how it is for them, and not so much what we think it should be.
Shaun, do you have anything to add to that?
I think that was a great introduction.
Yeah, I think it was too, actually. So I'm wondering how you guys came together and decided on this subject.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we met in the 3rd grade in a very small town in sort of central Southern California called Fraser Park. And we've known each other since then. And we worked on our first video project together, I guess about 8 years ago, right? Or so? 7 or 8 years ago?
Yeah.
And then just about 2.5 years ago, I met Steve Namande, who's one of the founders of Alternative Cameroon, and that's the first gay and lesbian center in Cameroon. And I met him through Human Rights Watch in Los Angeles. They brought him there to honor him at an event as a human rights hero. And when I first met him, he was incredible, and he started to talk about the folks who work at the center that he founded and the people who come there to be part of the community. And they all sounded like these incredibly brave and creative and passionate people who were, despite living in one of the most homophobic places in the world, were really exploring what it means to to form a community, to find strength from each other, and also to figure out how they might be able to change things. And so that was all very exciting. And I called Deb and we talked about it. And Deb and I have worked on a few short projects together over the past 8 or so years. So it just, we decided to work on it together.
So Cameroon imprisons more people for being homosexual than any place in the world. Do you think that it's due to Christianity, or is there more to that? Why Cameroon?
I mean, maybe we can both answer this question because it's a complex one, and probably the most honest answer is we don't know. It's not the religious climate, although it is very much influenced by the Catholic Church, actually is certainly not the only factor. One of the things that we saw while we were filming was the association between homosexuality and witchcraft, which is also illegal, and kind of, in fact, the 2 women, we follow the trial of 2 lesbians who were arrested while we were actually there shooting in Cameroon, and the official charges against them were lesbianism and witchcraft. So there's that piece, and then, there's also the sense that, the president has been in power since, 1982, Shaun?
Yeah, 81 or 82. It's been
81 or 82, and
31
and
years.
So there is a sense that this that from a legal standpoint, it's really hard to know how much that is the law itself is influencing the sort of perpetuating the homophobia amongst just amongst everyday people.
Mm-hmm. And it seems like, is it more a government thing, or are the people more intolerant? Because in the film, it seems like it's kind of both. But are the people in general more accepting?
Well, it seems there's incredibly strong homophobia, but there's also, we felt a lot of potential for understanding. There's a scene in the film where one of the women who was on trial for lesbianism is traveling back to the city after the trial in the country, and she has a conversation with the cab driver, who has never met a lesbian before, in his life,
That was a really interesting scene.
Right? And so he is, at the beginning, he's kind of standoffish but curious. right? And he's clearly not like on her side at the beginning, but they have this really like bizarrely honest conversation, right? Like he asks questions that I think none of us would.
Inappropriate.
Well, to us maybe. I mean, to them, like they were cool with it, you know. And by the end of the conversation, I think you really see him. He says, like, "Wow, you're really cool." You know, it's like really cool that you're just being yourself, and like, you know, and like you're different, and the ways that you're different are kind of neat, you know. And there are all these layers of like why he's interested, but I don't know. It felt from talking to the folks we know there who are LGBT and just being there, it feels like that kind of openness and curiosity is there among a lot of people. And that when they do get to make contact with someone different, you know, they're willing to kind of like figure it out and see what's there instead of just reacting against it and attacking them or something.
Does it seem like modern day Cameroon it's more acceptable or safer now than decades ago?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know about decades ago, honestly. I mean, no one was out decades ago, right? It was just not something that people talked about at all. But some of the people who are in charge of the center, the Gay and Lesbian Center in Cameroon, are out publicly, completely. And they do media as out Cameroonians. And they've said, Yves Yom in particular said that 5 years ago, he didn't think that would have been possible and that things really have changed so that he feels safe to do that. So that's a good sign. But yeah, and we don't know about the more traditional culture stretching back, you know, centuries or millennia. I mean, it's such an incredibly diverse country, right? There are like over 200 languages spoken. Mm-hmm. So it's this collection of very different cultures. And we don't know what the history is like with most of those.
So when the film comes to a close, two of the individuals that you're following are about to be sent to prison. Have they had their appeals since the filming of this movie?
No, they're still waiting, and what we understand from Elise, the lawyer representing them, is that it will be a couple of years, at least another year.
But they're not currently in prison. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so at least they're not stuck in prison.
Right.
Did you find the subjects of the film through the Alternatives Cameroon?
Yes, we did. We had the initial invitation to come visit the center from Steve Namonde that Shaun mentioned earlier, and he told them they knew about the project, and we corresponded with them before we arrived. So when we did arrive, it was we didn't expect that anyone would want to actually show their faces on camera. You know, we expected to shoot. To come up with creative ways to make a film without revealing identity at all. Mm-hmm. And all of pretty much everyone who worked there that was very enthusiastic about the film, and we found that the opposite to be true, that they were, saying things like that they were tired of Cameron pretending that homosexuality doesn't exist. Just a lot of conversations like, yeah, I'll be on camera. Like, yeah, almost, really, really having a lot to say and feeling energized by the opportunity to say it. And so we did talk to probably close to a dozen people who were interested in letting us explore their stories and their experience on camera. And we ended up choosing Cedric and Gertrude for a number of reasons. But that is how we met them, yes. And
at one point, one of the subjects, he actually has to move because he was threatened with violence. Whoever it was said they were going to come and kill him. Do you think, did you filming have anything to do with him being outed, or was it through other means that they found him?
Yeah, he had already been outed in his neighborhood. He apparently, one of his friends was staying with him and hit on one of the neighbors, and so the neighborhood then found out that like there were gay people here, and that was several months before we started with him. But then the question of seeing these foreigners following him with cameras, like, I mean, maybe that there was jealousy, maybe that, like, you know, a sense that like, oh, you know, like they had threatened him, but not quite as intensely before. So yeah, it seems like that certainly could be possible.
Was there any concern with, like, when you were filming Gertrude, for instance, that the cameras there would have a negative impact, like, on her life as well?
I don't know. What do you?
Yeah, I feel like for her it was a little bit less so. You know, with Cedric, we were dealing with kind of these thugs in his neighborhood that, you know, really, I mean, attacks happen all the time, you know, and so this is that was really a different issue. With Gertrude, really the concern was filming in such a way that it didn't make her uncomfortable around her family, and since they have a cover already with their families, their families know that they work at a center called Alternative Cameroon.
Mm-hmm.
What they think is that the center deals primarily with HIV/AIDS prevention and treatment, and so it was. You know, it was pretty simple to just show up and say, okay, well, we're doing a little documentary on this center and the people who work there. And so that was kind of how she explained it to the people in her life that were, as we filmed with her. So, yeah, with her it was less of a concern. I mean, certainly the scene where she comes out to the Mother Superior,
Mm-hmm.
you know, was, you know, the camera was there, and you know, and the Mother Superior did not know what was happening when it happened, and so I can't say that there was no impact, but you know, we like to think the impact was.
Mm-hmm. One final question. I got an email here recently that said that there were very recently some threats and some attacks on a lot of the organizations, including Alternatives Cameroon. I was wondering if you could give us some updates on that.
Yeah. So about a week ago, there was a fire at Alternative Cameroon in the middle of the night, and the folks there suspected it was arson. And it damaged the center pretty severely. I guess it destroyed the computers and the furniture that they had there. And they've asked the police to investigate, but it doesn't sound like they're being very cooperative. So there's no new information on who specifically may have done it.
And according to the email I got here, that there was also, I don't know if it was at Alternatives Cameroon or maybe one of the other organizations, that there were files stolen on a lot of the members of these, but there was money left behind. That's very troubling.
Yeah, I think that was at the office of the lawyer Michel Togué, who is one of the only 2 lawyers in Cameroon who defends people accused of homosexuality. Yeah, apparently his office was broken into and files were taken, but yes, there was money left in the petty cash drawer. So it looks like it was targeting, you know, information rather than just some random robbery.
That is very troubling. So let's go ahead and do some plugging. The film is set to premiere at Outfest. Do you know when it's going to be premiering there?
July 14th at 7:30 p.m. at the Harmony Gold Theater.
Okay. And also, Do you have any websites that you want to give our listeners that want to learn more about Alternatives Cameroon, or just the situation of things over there?
Absolutely. Yeah, the URL for the film's website is www.bornthiswaydocumentary.com, and you can also find us on Facebook, where we post updates pretty frequently, and that's also Born This Way Documentary.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, guys, and best of luck with the film.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks again, Shaun and Deb. If you're in LA, you'll definitely want to check this one out. Again, it's called Born This Way. All right, let's go ahead and jump into some of what we've been watching. I'll kick it off this week. I have a good number of movies this week that I saw. So I'll go through them. And actually, as a surprise turn of events, I guess, I liked most of them. So...
Whoa!
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of bad stuff this week.
This is going to be different.
Yeah,
I don't know if I can handle this.
First up, I saw a documentary called "Terms and Conditions May Apply," which I'm going to be holding off on that for a while because it's not out yet, and I recently did an interview with the director of that film, so we'll be talking to him on next week's show. So we'll be coming back to that, but when it does come out, I do recommend it.
What's it about?
It's
really?
about internet privacy.
Gotcha.
It's very interesting and frightening.
So it's essentially the stuff where da-da-da-da-da, and you have to agree to it.
Yes, but it goes a lot deeper than that. But that's kind of the base for it. Very interesting.
I have a feeling that I don't want to know those things.
No, it definitely, you definitely don't want to know, but you should.
I know. I know. I should.
Then I saw Europa Report, which is currently playing on demand right now. This is a very low budget sci-fi film. A lot of people are calling it hard sci-fi, but I guess it could be considered hard sci-fi. It stars.
What's that mean? What does that mean?
Hard sci-fi means that it really delves into the science aspect of it, where they get pretty deep into how things work.
Okay, I gotcha.
This was actually pretty good. I was really amazed at how it looked. I mean, the visuals in this, for being such a low budget, were pretty impressive. Like, I looked it up, and this movie was filmed in Brooklyn, New York. But it takes place on Jupiter's moon, Europa.
All right.
I'm
slightly interested in this.
Yeah, I mean, the basic premise is that in the near future, a team is sent into space to explore Europa and look for signs of life.
Yeah.
And things go terribly wrong. I will say, and this is mainly for you, Kevin, it's not like an alien movie. It's not a horror movie.
Okay.
This is like straight up sci-fi. And I enjoyed it. A lot of the camera tricks and things that they used were really effective. And I think that with a lot of low budget movies that attempt to do new, like, kind of bigger special effects and that type of thing, like, sometimes it ends up looking better because of how limited they are.
If they do it right.
It forces them to come up with creative ways to show things. Like, for instance, District 9, I thought looked amazing on the budget that it had. And the same goes for your Europa Report. I definitely recommend checking it out.
There are times when it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Case in point, Earthling.
Yeah, there are definitely times
check
where
that
it doesn't
out
work.
if you want a example of where it doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, there are times where it doesn't work, but fortunately in this case it did work pretty nicely. Then I saw Best Friends Forever, which we just heard an interview. Not going to really get into this too much. We do have a review on the site too, but I think that Vera and Brea made a pretty good case for checking this one out. And I saw Gideon's Army, which is a documentary that premiered on HBO. If you have HBO, you can check it out on HBO Go. This is about public defenders in the Deep South, and this was extremely fascinating. I like crime documentaries, I guess, but this one was so well made. It was so simple in how they put it together. There's no narration, there's almost no music, and they just kind of let the story speak for itself and let the characters, the subjects of the film, be the voice. And it's crazy. I mean, the job that these public defenders do is absolutely crazy.
I would not want to do that.
No, I mean, most people that become public defenders don't last very long because the pay is very little, and they could be making, you know, tons of money in a private practice, and it's very tiring and grueling. I mean, most of them have 150, 160 cases open at once. So, yeah, I mean, we're talking long hours, very difficult work. And, I mean, I just admire these people so much. Highly recommend checking that out. There's also a review for that up on the site. I saw Funky Forest, The First Contact.
Ah, I've been wanting to see this for a long time.
Yeah, well, I saw it.
You did it. You did it.
Yeah, I jumped into it. This is a very, very odd Japanese movie.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of like, you know, like those Wario games, WarioWare, where it's just like the micro games and it's just crazy stuff, random crazy stuff. That's like this movie, basically.
Same thing.
There's a couple notes I wrote here because it's a very long movie, which is a negative, a big negative. It's entirely too long. There's a segment that because there's titles for each segment, and this is an impossible movie to talk about as far as the plot. So some of the highlights for me were the Unpopular with Women Brothers, aka the Guitar Brothers. It's these two Japanese guys and then one overweight white kid. And they go back to them several times throughout the movie, and I thought just the title alone, The Unpopular with Women Brothers, I thought was really funny. There's also the Babbling Hot Springs Vixens. We revisit them several times, and it's just like these friends that are just telling each other random stories. Yeah. And then there's several dance numbers throughout the film that will happen randomly. And they mix in animation into it as well. So it's like a Roger Rabbit type thing where there's like cartoons involved. There's people dressed up in silly costumes. There's a 3-minute intermission in the film that consists of just a blue screen with a countdown timer on it for 3 minutes.
Nice.
3 full minutes. So if you like weird Japanese craziness, you might want to check this out. This is one of the directors is the same guy that did Shark Skin Man, Peach Chip Girl.
Yeah, Katsuhito Ishii.
Yeah, Party 7.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of him because I've also The Taste of Tea. Have you seen that film?
No, I haven't seen that.
That's a really good film. Which was, I think, right before Funky Forest.
Well, the reason I watched this is because there's a sequel that's coming out. I believe that it actually premiered at the New York Asian Film Festival that was happening this week. So be on the lookout for that too. Then I saw Downloaded, which is the Napster documentary by Alex Winter. I liked this a lot. I mean, the fact that we grew up during the Napster, you know, the whole Napster trial and the controversy and all that stuff, like a lot of it was familiar. A lot of it was me remembering things like, oh yeah, I do remember that. But it was still pretty interesting, and it's one of those documentaries that now it may seem a little insignificant, but a decade from now, people are going to look back at this documentary to remember the impact that Napster had on the internet.
Yeah.
And more importantly, the impact that it had on the music industry. I mean, that's really what one of the things that this film gets into is how Napster completely changed the music industry. And I definitely recommend checking it out, especially if you grew up when Napster came out and used Napster, like most of us did.
Oh, I remember Napster.
Oh, it was the greatest thing ever when it first came out.
It was the greatest thing ever, but also at the same time, I thought it was fucking terrible.
I loved it.
And it never worked for me.
Of course it didn't work for you.
I know.
Well,
nothing technology-wise ever works for me, for some reason.
Well, I remember when Napster first came out, there was, most of us were still on dial-up, so one song would take like 10 minutes to download.
It made you appreciate that fucking song, though.
Oh, yeah.
I'll tell you that much.
You were much more selective about your downloading.
You went into it, there was a lot of research, you knew exactly what you were downloading.
It made you prioritize.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Nowadays, you can just download like 37 albums in like a matter of like 10 minutes.
You don't even have to download them. You just load up Spotify and you can just listen to whatever you want without having to download anything.
Yeah. Oh, that's ridiculous.
I saw Turkey Shoot.
Turkey Shoot.
Which is, it's on Letterboxd it says 83, but I think it actually came out like 82. This is it's an Australian exploitation film. This was my Grindhouse Weekly pick.
So is this the one that's also known as Escape 2000?
Yes.
And Blood Camp Thatcher?
Yes. I like Turkey Shoot better. I think it's a much better title. That's the original Australian title. Escape 2000 was the American version. And I think that was distributed on Roger Corman's label, but he didn't have anything to do with it. It's directed by Brian Trenchard Smith, who I think he did Stunt Rock, which was another big exploitation film of that time. He also did Dead End Drive-In, which I talked about on another Grindhouse Weekly, and he did BMX Bandits, which was Nicole Kidman's start.
Yeah.
And this movie, it's basically like Most Dangerous Game or Surviving the Game or one of these where people hunt people.
People hunt people.
Like nowadays, this formula feels a little bit old, but for when this came out, you have to realize that there really wasn't anything like this at the time. It did take place in the future, so there was this kind of dystopian feel to it, very much like it was like 1984 meets Most Dangerous Game or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, like ridiculously over the top violent. I mean, people getting limbs cut off and exploding, and I mean, it was pretty extremely graphic. The other weird thing about it is that one of the hunters, and it's like millionaires that hunt people, and one of them he had some sort of like wolfman creature that he bought and took him on the hunt with him, and that didn't fit with the movie at all. It was so weird. But this guy also hunted people down on a bulldozer and shot at them with a rocket launcher. So he wasn't really...
Oh my god. He was having a good time with it.
Yeah.
Sounds like.
Yeah. Like some of them, like there's a woman in it. She uses a crossbow. And then there's like another guy that uses like a sniper rifle. But no. This guy
is all in.
Yeah.
Balls to the wall fun. Rocket launcher, bulldozer, wolfman.
And we do get to see him run over somebody with the bulldozer, and then someone gets rammed into a tree with the bulldozer and split in half.
Now, how does that happen? Because bulldozers are really slow.
Well, this isn't. It's not. It's.
Is it a souped-up bulldozer?
Yeah, I call it a bulldozer,
nice.
but
okay.
It's more like It's more like a dune buggy of sorts. It's not as fast as a dune buggy, I don't think, but it's got a what do they call it on the end? A bucket or a trough or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's got one of those bulldozer things on the end. But it also has a stationary gun mounted to it. It's pretty badass. And at one point the survivors that are being hunted kill the guy and commission it and start using the bulldozer against their captors.
No.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it's decent. It's worth checking out, I guess. And then the only other thing I saw was Born This Way, which we just talked about.
Yeah, we did. Indeed. I guess it's my turn then.
It is your turn, Kevin.
My apologies. I started out with Yesterday Girl, which is a German film from 1967. One of the first films to usher in the new German cinema by Alexander Klug. And for whatever reason, this guy doesn't get any recognition when it comes to German cinema, it seems like. Heavily influenced by French New Wave, and this being his first film based on a short story of his, because he was also an author. And essentially, it's just a young woman moving from East Germany to West Germany, looking for a better life, finds out there isn't one, and she goes through the same shit that she had to go through in East Germany. And it's a bit all over the place, because like I said, it's his first film, so he just throws everything in there. He tries everything. Camera angles, camera tricks, editing styles. He's just all over the place. Some of it works, some of it doesn't. And I was actually getting slightly bored towards the end of it. But the way that he finished the film was like a perfect ending to everything that happened. It was very, very powerful ending. Just unfortunately, it took a while getting there and just sort of meandered towards that end, but definitely an interesting watch. Then I followed that up with Breathing, which this is a feature film debut from the actor Karl Markovics, who was in, you would probably know him from The Counterfeiters. Mm-hmm. And I have to say I was pleasantly surprised by this film. Like, I remember reading about it and, reading that it was pretty damn good, this and that, so finally checked it out. And this is extremely good. Definitely for a debut feature. It seems like this guy's been making films for years. And it's essentially just about a young man who's incarcerated at like a juvenile detention center for an altercation when he was like 14 years old, and he has to find work. And he ends up working at a morgue, dealing with dead bodies and such, and it's sort of him going through that sort of a coming of age type film. And he's also an orphan, and he seeks out his biological mother, and there's that storyline to it. And it's just it's a very profound movie. Very nicely done. Beautifully shot. Just extremely pleasant surprise. So I would definitely check that out. Breathing. And this is Play Instantly on Netflix. So I would suggest seeking that out. And then I watched Smashed, finally. Mm-hmm. The Aaron Paul, Mary Elizabeth Winstead film, where
I still haven't seen this.
Yeah. Aaron Paul plays Jesse Pinkman, but doesn't say yo or bitch. I don't think at all. He might say bitch once. But, I mean, I like Aaron Paul, but come on, honestly. Show a little range. He has like one facial expression, and that's it. But I still like him. But it's very serious, but they try and add comedy, for levity, because you're dealing with a pretty heavy subject matter here, which is, a young married couple that drink way too much, and that's really the only way they
Connect.
can exist, connect or exist with each other is through their love of alcohol. So on one hand, it's very, very serious, and you're dealing with very heavy subject matter. And then on the other hand, they're trying to add this comedy to it to, bring some levity, but the comedy just doesn't fit at all. Like, they really go out of the way and stuff that just doesn't fit in any way whatsoever. Which is like Nick Offerman coming on to Mary Elizabeth Winstead saying that he wants to fuck her moist pussy, just like out of nowhere. And you're like, okay, that's weird. And then they just sort of drop it. And then, she gets drunk at one point and ends up smoking crack, because apparently that's what all alcoholics do. And I know a lot of alcoholics, and I know no one's ever done that. So that was weird, that she just goes into smoking crack.
No, it's the next step. It's the next.
It's a gateway.
It's the next gateway. It's the next natural progression. You go from alcohol to crack.
Just smoking crack and sleeping under a bridge. Who hasn't done that, really? But one of the things that really bugged me is, I don't know if it was an attempt to like raise the stakes in the film, is that very early on, night of drinking, she wakes up hungover, she's late for work, she gets there, she takes a couple shots from her flask, she goes in, she's a first grade teacher, so she's doing her class, she's having a good time, you can tell she's a really good teacher. She gets sick, and she vomits in class in front of all of her kids. One of the kids says, "Are you pregnant?" And she just goes, yeah, I'm pregnant. So now all the kids think that she's pregnant, her boss thinks that she's pregnant, and she just goes along with it for the entire film. And it's just like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, who would do that?
A drunk person?
I mean, no. No, they wouldn't. They would just be like, I'm sick.
Yeah.
Who jumps to, yes, I'm pregnant, fuck. Let's go with that story. That won't, come back to bite me in the ass. So it's a really good film that it's just, they seem to just put in these things that just were so unneeded, so unnecessary, that just really undermined everything that they were working towards. So I say it's like a light recommend, because half of the film's really good and then the other half is just complete shit. It's just unfortunate that they mixed the two together. And then I saw The Heat, went out and saw this comedy with Melissa McCarthy and Sandra Bullock.
I'd put comedy in quotes.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought it would. I really liked Melissa McCarthy. I loved Dan Bacadol as Craig the Albino.
Who are you married to? A sack of flour with a hole in it?
And yeah, everything between him and Melissa McCarthy just had me cracking up. Her entire family and those ridiculous Boston accents, just for whatever reason, that shit always makes me laugh. Everyone else was just really going through the motions. I mean, I don't understand why Marlon Wayans was there.
Yeah,
I don't get that.
Yeah, unnecessary.
Taron Killam.
Not funny.
He killed every single scene he appeared in. Just sucked all the life out of it. Which is a shame, because I actually like him on
I like
SNL.
him. Yeah.
He's a really funny guy. And in this film, they have him playing like a serious role. And I'm thinking, why? Why would you get someone like this to play that role? It just doesn't make any sense.
Like casting him in 12 Years a Slave? That'll be interesting.
That at least is a serious film. Like, I can understand where he's going there. He wants to get into serious film.
Yeah.
But why be in like a comedy where you're playing this serious role?
I loved the tracheotomy scene. I thought that was one of the funniest parts of the movie, and the scene in the nightclub when they're trying to get the phone from the guy. For some reason,
yes.
I thought that was so funny.
I thoroughly enjoyed that. They just kept having to push all the women around. And they couldn't, and they would just end up like even farther away, and not even realize it. I also loved that Melissa McCarthy was so intent on sharing that cheese sandwich. Just kept bringing it up over and over again.
Yeah, I was still pretty lukewarm on the movie, though.
I mean, it wasn't like the best comedy I've seen. It was slightly refreshing, though, to see a good comedy featuring women. You don't really get too much of that. I mean, Bridesmaids was the last thing we really seen, and before that, pretty much nothing.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
I know, you can't really think of any, can you?
No, not really. I mean, not movies.
It's definitely refreshing. I'm worried that, like we talked about it before with Melissa McCarthy, It's running a bit thin there. Hope she gets into some other things.
Did you read?
Strikes
Did
that
you
out of-
hear that Rex Reed thing with the critic Rex Reed? How he came out and said just awful things about Melissa McCarthy,
Like,
and
what?
when he reviewed Identity Thief, he came out and he said that she was like a big fat hippo, and I mean I'm paraphrasing.
Jesus.
Yeah, like I'm paraphrasing. That's not an exact quote, but I know that he called her a hippo and was just saying the worst. He called her like a tractor, and he was just saying these like really awful things. And like Melissa McCarthy came out and gave a statement to like the New York Times or something, and it was really a good poignant statement. And then like he came back and he said, you know what, I'm not gonna apologize for anything I said. I stand by it. He's like, I don't think obesity is funny in the slightest bit, and it disgusts me that overweight people make fun of, being obese.
Give me a break. I'm sure he fucking loves John Candy and Chris Farley.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Such a double standard there.
Exactly.
If you're a guy and you're overweight, oh, fucking chuckle fest. But if it's a woman, you're like, ugh, gross.
Ugh.
Gross.
Ugh.
So unladylike.
Well, yeah, I mean, either way, I think that it's terrible. I mean, certainly he has a right to say those types of things, but just, I mean, come on.
I mean,
that's a dick move.
Yeah, completely dick move. What's his name? Rex Reed?
Yeah.
Dick Reed.
Dick Reed.
Dick Reed. Fucking dick
Oh,
fuck.
God.
What an asshole. I'm gonna go ahead and forget about him. And then I watched my first ever Robert Downey Sr. film. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have much time, and I was like, okay, I need a film that meets a certain criteria, and that is it needs to be less than an hour long, because that's all the time that I have. So I went with a film called 2 Tons of Turquoise to Taos Tonight, which is also known as Moment to Moment. This is a lot like the original title, Moment to Moment. It's just a little skit, and then onto a little skit, onto a little skit for 56 minutes. Just little snippets here and there, filmed over like 2 years, and it's a fucking mess. This is just awful. There was numerous points in the film where it just goes into like montage mode, where it almost looks like a music video, and they're just doing whatever shit they're doing. You can tell they're on shit tons of drugs. Shit tons of drugs mixed with the data, mixed with we don't give a fuck about anything, and it's awful. There's just, I mean, I would imagine that the people that were involved in doing this had a ton of fun. It was probably the best 2 years ever, just hanging out and dicking around. But for everyone else that has to, watch it, it's awful. It's just absolutely terrible. Now, there is a very, very young Robert Downey Jr. in the film,
Nice.
dressed up like a pimp, talking about selling his house and moving to Frisco, to a black guy in overalls who desperately wants a Frankfurter.
Mm.
They also play baseball on horseback, which
Ooh.
was slightly interesting. That was actually interesting. But that only lasted, both of these things only lasted for maybe a minute, if that. And we're talking about 56 minutes here. So that's 2 minutes. There's still 54 minutes of other shit going on. That's awful.
So it's like some kind of fantastic omnibus film that's just by one director.
Yeah, sorta like that. It's like drug fueled schizophrenia on film, maybe, sort of like that. I don't know. It's like you hit the random button and just shit pops up,
Sounds
and
like,
they're all on drugs. It's all made by people on drugs. So steer well clear of this film. There's nothing there besides baseball and horseback. And then I rewatched Pulp Fiction because my wife is currently going through all the like major films that she has not seen that she's sort of embarrassed by.
the list of shame.
Yeah, which is actually pretty fun for me because I've been wanting to rewatch a lot of these films, and the last one being like L.A. Confidential. So I'm getting to rewatch them, so it's working out for both of us. And like I remember everything in Pulp Fiction. The only thing I didn't remember is how like the sequence of events. I couldn't quite remember.
Mm-hmm.
So I still had that going for me. There's still some surprises there. And I was still thinking, like after I watched it, I thought, okay, it's still not a 10 out of 10 for me because Tarantino's cinematography is just fucking terrible. It's awful in Pulp Fiction. I hate the entire look of the film, especially his just random use of slow motion, which he still does. I remember talking about that with Django Unchained. I hated it.
I like that.
I can't stand it. And then I thought, you know what? I gave Louis Ball My Dinner with Andre a 5, and there's no cinematography whatsoever in that film. It's just a film discussion. So, you know what? I gotta stick to my guns here. So I had to bump up Tarantino to a 10 out of 10 with Pulp Fiction
Nice.
because he makes up for it. I mean, the dialogue in this film is just some of the best you've ever seen. It's just so amazing.
Well, Pulp Fiction is definitely on my top 5 of all time. So
I'm
obviously,
still
obviously, I love it.
I still hate the sporadic, unnecessary use of slow motion, and I hate him acting in his fucking films. Quit it.
Yeah,
Not gonna.
that doesn't bother me.
This film is actually his best acting performance, though. I'll give him that.
It doesn't have an Australian. It doesn't put on some kind of weird Australian accent.
Yeah, what the? Oh my God.
That
But
I don't
I
know.
don't know. I mean, if I was a director, I'd probably do the same fucking thing.
Oh yeah, I mean
Like, yeah,
a
it's
lot of
fun.
directors like doing that just for fun. I mean Hitchcock did it.
He made it into a fun game, though.
Yes, he did. All right, that's all you got.
That's all I got. That's
Okay.
it.
Before we get into predictions, I just wanted to. We never mentioned TV, and I just wanted to quickly mention a couple things that are on TV that might be worth checking out. Ray
Wimbledon?
Donovan on Showtime.
Ray Donovan.
Ray Donovan. Remember
Ray-
seeing the ads for Ray
I
Donovan
I
plastered?
hate Ray Donovan more than anything in the world.
Uh, the first episode premiered last week, and it was the most watched Showtime show ever, I believe.
Are you serious?
And I was like, okay, well, check it out, and it was great. It was
Are you serious?
it was really good. I mean, Liv Schreiber is the main character, but it also has a ton of great people in it. Like John Voight plays his father, and it was great. I loved it.
So is he essentially like a Mr. Wolf in this film?
Yeah,
Or
he's
this show.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. He's like a fixer, but
Gotcha.
he just works with like high profile celebrities, like athletes and movie stars and that type of thing. But he has like a team. That he has like a publicist that he works with, and then like a muscle guy that does a lot of the heavy lifting and dirty work. But I think that it has promise. I mean, with any TV show, be it on any channel, I'm always apprehensive to recommend it based off of the pilot. So I would say I'm gonna give it a couple of weeks and see if it really sticks with me. But so far, I'm enjoying it. I also wanted to mention that Luther Series 3 started on, I think, BBC 1 or 2, and it's going to be on BBC America September 3rd. Huge fan of Luther. If you haven't seen the first 2 seasons, it's available on Netflix, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely check out Luther. Just great series. Also, Skins started back up, and this is the final series of Skins. This is the UK one, not that ridiculous US version. And this is the final series of Skins. So what they did was they brought back characters from the previous seasons, which, if you're not familiar with Skins, the way that it works is there's 2 series with one cast, and then they switch it up, and the next 2 series are a completely different cast. And
Okay.
what they did with this last one, which is the 7th season, is they brought back some of the main characters from the previous ones. One of them is Effie, who is the girl that's in Wuthering Heights.
Yes.
And very good first episode on that too. So that's on Channel 4 in the UK. All right, let's go ahead and talk about some predictions. Last week, Despicable Me 2, I said 60, you said 70, actual 75. Still not going to see it.
No. I can't stand those fucking Minions.
The Minions.
I'm sorry.
It's the Minions, man. I just cannot.
They drive me crazy.
Cannot do it. The Lone Ranger, I said 65. You said 68. Actual 24.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep. So next week we have Grown Ups 2. Now we're gonna be talking with Ryan on Thursday about Grown Ups 1, and that got a 9%.
Wow.
So how do you think the sequel's gonna do?
5. I'm going 5.
I'm gonna say. Oh God, I'm gonna say 8. I'm gonna say 8 on that. We also have another big one, Pacific Rim. I'm pretty excited about Pacific Rim. Are you at all interested in Pacific Rim?
I'm interested. I am interested.
I think that it's gonna be. I mean, it looks good to me. So
I don't know how it's gonna be.
no, I'm gonna say 76.
I'm gonna say 80.
I mean, I hope that it looks awesome, but who knows? Also, in limited release, we have Fruitvale Station, which I'm very excited for. VHS 2, which is on demand right now, so you can see that. The Hunt, which is one of my favorite movies of the year so far. That's the Mads Mikkelsen one. Blackfish, which I'm also interested to see. I heard that after you see that, you'll pretty much never want to go to SeaWorld ever again. Not that you...
I had already done.
Yeah, not that you wanted to go in the first place. Crystal Fairy, which is the one with Michael Cera. We should have a review for that up very soon as well. And Terms and Conditions May Apply. So,
oh, there you go.
Good number of stuff. DVD and Blu-ray releases. This is for Tuesday, July 9th, 2013. We have Admission. Did you see Admission?
No.
I didn't either. I heard it wasn't funny at all.
Which it's a shame. I love Tina Fey and Paul Rudd. Just looks awful.
I heard that it's like not even like it's supposed to be laugh out loud funny, but either way, it did not get good reviews. It was not well received. Then we have Spring Breakers.
It's a decent film.
Yeah, it's definitely a decent film.
It's only the only 10 out of 10 I've seen this year.
If you haven't seen Spring Breakers, I mean, now's the
your chances. Yeah,
now's the
Tuesday.
Time.
Tuesday's going to be your chance.
Side note: did you read about the chopped and screwed version of Spring Breakers?
Now, this is something that I've talked about this with my wife for a long time, like the last couple of years. That I'm surprised no one has done this before, like doing like a remix of a film. I mean, you see it in music all the time.
Well, actually, it was done once before, to my knowledge, and that was with Anchorman.
Really?
Yeah, they came out with a completely different version of Anchorman on DVD that is almost entirely new footage, and it's almost a completely different movie.
Oh, wow. Now, I would like to see, now in this, we were talking about Anchorman, was it done by the people, was it done by McKay?
Oh, yeah.
And Wolf, okay.
Yeah, it was done.
I would like to see someone, I would like in this instant, I would like Corinne to hand over his footage for Spring Breakers to another director.
Well, that's the rumor. The rumor is that he's gonna...
Oh, God, I would love to see that.
The rumor is that he's gonna be working with James Franco, and Franco's...
Wait, maybe someone other than that?
Well, I'm just saying that's the rumor. Also,
I have a feeling it's gonna be Franco heavy.
This is also a complete off-track side note, but did you see the article I posted about Guillermo del Toro directing the Slaughterhouse 5 reboot with Charlie Kaufman writing it? That
I died for a second.
Oh my God, that excites me very much.
Yeah, I mean, I lost my shit.
That's really cool. Okay, getting back to it, Dead Man Down. I don't know what to say about this one.
Pass that.
Yeah.
Pass that.
Whatever. The Host, another one that got completely dismal reviews, is that one with Saoirse Ronan.
Yeah, you don't need to know anything about it.
Yeah.
Just pass it. Skip it.
Finally, Tyler Perry's Temptation Confessions of a Marriage Counselor.
I'm happy because in my mind, Tyler Perry's Temptation is always synonymous with Spring Breakers to me because of the time of seeing both trailers back to back
Right.
in my small town in Pennsylvania, where I was like, I'd never thought that this would ever happen. If you would have told me this 10 years ago, I would have said you're a fucking idiot. And it happened. So now they're always linked together. So I would like to see Harmony Korine hand over all this footage of Spring Breakers to Tyler Perry.
Ooh.
And see what film he comes up with.
That would be very interesting.
It would melt your face, I think.
I would like to see that.
Do it.
I'd like to see Tyler Perry do something, because I'm not convinced that he's not a good director, but I just think that he does these movies.
Yeah, he makes fluff films.
I would love to see him do something.
He plays it safe.
Yeah.
You would think he would by now. All the money that he's made, just go for it.
He was in J.J. Abrams' Star Trek, the first one, which when I saw him on screen, I was like, what? Why is he in this movie? Any other like Criterions or anything coming out this week?
I have one other one. I'm surprised that you didn't mention it. Maybe
Probably didn't see it.
Where I'm getting it from is maybe not entirely correct, but Boy, the New Zealand comedy that we both love immensely.
That's inching its way up to a 10 out of 10 for me. I don't know. I don't remember what I gave it initially, but
I think you gave it a 9,
if I
remember correctly. Yeah, which I think I gave it the same. I have a feeling that if I rewatched it, it would be a 10. I mean, this is just a hilarious film. Such a good time.
Yeah.
Loved it. So definitely check that out. There's only one Criterion of note, which is The Life of Oharu, which is a Misoguchi film from 1952, which is supposed to be amazing. I'm not that interested in it, but I'll probably check it out at some point in my life. About a samurai's daughter who slowly descends into prostitution. So Japanese, always cutting edge. 1952. Go for it.
Nice. All right. Well, I think that wraps it up. For all the latest film news and reviews, visit us at filmpulse.net. Send us an email, feedback@filmpulse.net. Follow us on Twitter @filmpulsenet. And be sure to rate us on iTunes. We appreciate that very much. For filmpulse.net, my name is Adam.
And I'm Kevin.
And we will see you on Thursday for Ryan Watches a Movie.
Un peu d'amour, un peu d'estime, une vie sans histoire, la fatigue, la panique, le bonheur frappe à ta porte.
Pacific. That I almost said Pacific. People,